If you have a PR that is just open for a long time and not getting merged quickly, you have what we call merge debt. If you don't nip it in the bud quickly, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and gets out of control, and the blast radius grows as well. Hi, I'm Matt from SSW, and I am here today with Luke.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good.
Nice.
I'm a bit frustrated though.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. What this time?
This time I want to talk about pull requests.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of those. Yep.
Yeah, fun, right?
Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, but not always.
No, not always.
No. We've spoken about merge debt a lot in the past, and we've even got a tool that we've built internally to try and reduce it.
Yep.
So we all know that we need to reduce merge debt, and we need to get better at getting PRs merged.
Yep.
Now there's two sides to that. There's one side as the requester and one side as the reviewer. So I want to look at some examples about how we can get better at reducing that merge debt. We talked a lot about we need to do it. Let's look at how.
I agree. The three scariest words for a PR is get rebase main. So let's avoid that and get these PRs merged as fast as we can, yeah?
Yeah, agreed.
All right, show me how.
Okay. All right, let's look at a simple example first. So we've got a PR here, and we can see here that it says added get ingredient feature. So this is adding a feature to get ingredients. As per PBI 24, added this feature. There's some acceptance criteria, so we can see here what we're expecting.
Automatically reject this PR.
Why would you reject this?
Because it says it added the ingredient feature, but it says it returns a recipe from the database using the ID.
Ah, there you go. So there's a bad comment there.
Not what we're here to talk about. Let's pretend they all make sense, right?
So I think this is, you can see here that you can see that from the PBI description that it's supposed to be returning a recipe.
Yep.
So this needs to be renamed, okay?
Small issue.
Small issue.
Yeah.
But we can see what it's supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
We can look at the PBI and see what the PBI is, and we can look at the code. Let's have a look at the code.
2 files changed. Love PRs like that. Fantastic.
Nice and small. First change, ingredients controller. We're adding an action with a get method, calling a service, passing an ID, handling an argument exception, returning a 404, otherwise throwing a 500, which it would do anyway, but we're logging it. Great, okay?
Yep.
There's a change here to the service. It's getting an ID. It's looking up that ingredient in the database. So there is some confusion here about whether it's an ingredient or a recipe.
Yeah.
So we do need to resolve that.
Yeah.
But let's assume that it is consistent.
Okay.
So we're getting the ingredient based on the ID. We're doing a projection and returning it, throwing an argument exception if we can't find it, which we can see as being, we can see that the behavior is correct. Whether or not that's the right exception, the behavior is correct. It's being correctly handled and returning the right status code.
So as a senior, do you have any questions after looking at this?
Yeah, I have some questions. Yeah. So my first question, my biggest question is around this exception. So as I said, this we're throwing an argument exception here, which is not really the right exception. We are handling it the way that I would expect this API to handle it, but really we should be using a custom exception here and intercepting it with some exception handling middleware. Yeah.
So let's say that you're reviewing this PR as a senior developer. What would be the wrong way to go about addressing what you just spoke about?
Okay, so the wrong way would be to reject the PR and say, nope, not approved. This needs a custom exception.
Right, and why is that the wrong way?
Because while it does need a custom exception, it's not making the product worse. We may be introducing some technical debt if we already have custom exception handling and it's just not being implemented here. So what I would do is add a comment saying, do we have if I know it well and I know that we're doing that, I would reject it and I would say you need to be following the same pattern elsewhere. But otherwise I would add a comment saying, do we have custom exception handling? If not, add a PBI.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to blow out the scope of this PR. This PR is creating a single endpoint and a single service function. That's the scope of this PR. You don't want to turn that 2-file PR into a 10-file PR by implementing this feature and an entire custom exception middleware pipeline as well, right? With custom exception types.
Yep, agreed. That would be the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And we'll see an example of that later.
Okay, so look, reviewers' time is valuable. Let's say you need to get through this PR, get back to what you were doing. So you would add a comment on here, would you? And you would ask the developer to create a PBI to add the custom exception handling. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say that you have a little bit more time on your hands. What's an even better way of doing that?
Well, an even better way is to check the code base and see if there is custom exception handling. And if there is, then you know you can reject it. You see that there isn't, you just add the PBI yourself. You can, if you want to, you can add a comment saying, notice that this should be done better. Here's a link to the issue. Add a comment here in the code saying to do tech debt with a link to the issue.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. All of those things they make the problem visible. They put that onto the backlog so that that work can be done, and it still gets this PR merged and still makes the product better. That's what you want.
Yep.
Right? All right. Show me another example.
Okay, let's have a look at another one. Here's another straightforward one. Let's have a look at this. So this PBI is titled Added Delete Recipe Feature.
Okay.
So we can infer from that what we're expecting here. As per PBI, Added Delete Recipe Feature. Acceptance criteria with a couple of ticks here, so we can assume that these are done. Add capability to delete recipes, restrict to admins only. Let's take a quick look at the changes.
One file, even better.
One file, even better. Recipes controller. Here's the controller action to delete with a delete HTTP method. Looks great. It's just calling this delete on the service.
Approve or not approve?
Not approve.
Not approve. Okay, you would request changes on this.
I would.
Why would you request changes?
I would request changes because according to the acceptance criteria and the PBI, this should be restricted to admins, and this is not restricted to admins.
Yeah.
So there may be cases where you can say, this PBI isn't complete, there's more work to do, this is fine to merge. In this case, this isn't fine to merge because this would introduce a security risk.
It would introduce a security risk, yes, and it is not doing the work that's actually in scope for what it says it's doing.
That's right. Yeah.
So what's the wrong way to provide this feedback?
Well, I could leave a comment on here saying, have you missed something, question mark, question mark. You know, or some equally glib comment.
Yep.
You know, something passive aggressive. It's not helpful, it's not productive.
No. And you're gonna instill bad behavior into that poor dev who has to read that passive aggressive comment. What kind of comments are they gonna leave later on?
Yeah.
All right, so what's the right way to do this?
The right way is to call the dev and go over it on a screen share with them, explain why this is not okay, ask them if they understand that and if they're okay to push a change. And if they are, say, great. I would still leave the comment because it's important to make sure that those comments and that review process is captured. But at least you're leaving the comment knowing that they're going to go and handle it. If they don't know, that's fine. You work together on a screen share. I would still get them to do it. I would talk them through it, get them to push the change, and then I can review it. And again, in both cases, I would still leave the comment on here because it's important to have that visibility that those reviews are taking place. But the point is that you want to help them actually get the code merged, not just say no.
And think about the turnaround time. I think you hit the nail on the head. Call the dev and talk to them about it. If you were to leave a comment going, I think you've missed, this admin thing or what have you, could take X amount of time for that dev to read that comment, have a look themselves, respond. The response might even be, that's actually handled in this delete method in the service, right? I took a look, it's already in there. All of the admin protections are built straight into the server. I don't know why, I'm not suggesting you do it that way, but it could already be there, right?
Yeah.
And so then it's now taken sort of 2 bounces of that conversation for it to come back to you and you to be able to go, oh, okay, so I don't need to worry about this. It is actually already in the service handling this thing. All right, great. You could do that in 10 seconds.
In that case, I would probably add a to-do, add authorized attribute here, because it does still need to be here as well. But at least you can have some confidence that it can be merged and you can move ahead and know that that's going to be on the backlog and is going to get done.
And that turns in, that changes the outcome. Rather than rejecting this PR, it's allowed in. And all you're doing is adding a comment going, all right, we've got a PBI where we can do this better now, right? Fantastic. All right, I have one more question for you. Let me see if I can operate this magical device here. This is a particular sort of thorn in my side, shall we call it. Let's say that you have this code sitting in a PR, okay? It's a switch case statement.
Yep.
What do you think of that?
Looks good to me.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Ship it?
Yeah.
Okay. What about that code?
Corporate wants you to tell the difference between these two methods.
Right. They're exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I find sometimes is that devs can often be quite militant about everyone must code in the same style that I code.
Yeah.
And that's just not how it works. We're all different. We all come from different experience levels, different coding backgrounds, to entirely different tech stacks.
Yeah.
I think that styles are borderline irrelevant. There are some certain hard and fast rules on, certain stylistic choices in code. And if you are making those, they should be documented. It should be very, very clear that this is not a personal decision that the reviewer is enforcing upon the author of this PR. It's actually a project decision or a business decision that has been made and everyone is following this.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, personal preferences like this are not a valid reason to reject something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Is that everything that we want to look at today? I think there's one more that we want to check, right?
Let's have a look at one more example.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just go back here and I'll show you this PR. Now this kind of expands on a point that you raised earlier. Now, looking at the title of this PR, I think we can already see some red flags, okay?
I would not approve this PR without even looking at the code.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can see that there's a lot of code changes here. We don't even need to look at all of this code change. We can actually just go off the title of the PR.
Yeah.
And we can see here that we've got 3 different PBIs being addressed here. And all this acceptance criteria is related to a bunch of different features. Some of it is allergens, some of it's recipes, some of it's users. Okay, so what do you think?
I think that 17 files change for 3 separate features in a single PR is grounds for immediate changes requested. Single responsibility per PR, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some problems with not adhering to that, and one is the cognitive load. The context switching between the different features. It's going to take longer. There's more to review. The blast radius, of course, is greater. Like if you merge this and you've now got 3 features in there, you find an issue with one of them and you need to back it out. If you've got to revert that commit or what have you, you've now got 3 features that you're undoing and losing. So it's problematic. It's not respectful of the requester's time. It creates further knock-on problems down the line. I agree, this is not something that I would merge.
And it's a huge cognitive load that you're placing upon the reviewer when you're doing things like this. You know, they've now got to keep so much information in their buffer, essentially, as they're reviewing this PR, and it creates a lot of stress if you're the one that's ticking the approve on this one. So
how would you address it?
Good question. So I think the wrong way to address this is just to write back saying split this into separate PRs. And I've seen plenty of comments like that in the past. No explanation, no reasoning as to why, just go and separate this into separate PRs.
Yeah.
The right way is to have the conversation that we've just had with the author of the PR.
Yeah.
You call and you say, hey, I'm looking at this. Before I even look at the code, let's talk about how we can do the PRs better. And you can explain why, all of that reasoning. Be like, all right, and then you can even go one step further and show them a really nice, quick way of taking this original PR and splitting it into 3 separate ones.
Yeah.
Because it can be quite a daunting task for a junior dev if they've done all of this work and they're really proud and they've finally hit, raise this PR and the senior's like, just go split it, mate.
Yeah.
Talk to me when you're done.
Yeah, especially in this example where it's 1 commit.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing to keep in mind is that PRs as a whole are one of the best learning experiences or learning opportunities for junior devs, for every dev, really. And it's important that we teach others the best way of doing PRs, because they're going to replicate that behavior later on. And if you are sending through glib messages or passive aggressive messages, it's going to spread. You know, and no one's going to want to raise PRs. No one's going to want to review PRs. It's just going to turn into an absolute mess.
Yeah, I agree. For me, the key takeaway is that reviewing pull requests is not an adversarial process. It's a teamwork activity. We're on the same team. We all have the same goal, which is to get that code merged to move the product forward.
Yeah. And, you know, juniors turn into seniors by being taught good practices, being taught to bring the team along with you, and I think that's super important.
Thanks, Luke. I really appreciate your insight there on how we can all work together to avoid merge debt and get our PRs just merged and get our products moving forward.
Yeah, make it better one PR at a time. Don't boil the ocean.
Agreed. Thanks very much, Luke. For SSW TV, I'm Matt Goldman.
I'm Luke. We'll see you next time.